good, guys? It is Reed and welcome back to another video. Today, something a little bit different but something super special. I'm going to be going over my top 5 PROPLESS Mentalism effects. Now this was a requested video, so thank you to who requested it. And it's one of the first videos I'm making in this sort of list style format. And I guess this is kind of in the review sphere of things. So let me know if you guys would like to see more videos like this. I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to be ranking these in order, my top 5 lists, so they will be in order with one being my favorite. And I will also be giving a ranking system. I'll be rating them on reaction, the hit rate, so how like surefire they are, and the skill level, how difficult they are to learn and perform and that sort of thing. Unlike many reviewers, I will also be including live performances of all of these effects because, you know, it's important. It's important for you guys to see, and I got the performance chops, so I'm gonna do it. Keep in mind, these are my favorite PROPLESS Mentalism effects, and a large reason for me picking these is because they're the ones that I perform the most and I love. I will also be linking all of these products in the description if you're interested at taking a look at them or picking them up. So if you are looking to become better at PROPLESS Mentalism and either you're struggling to practice or struggling with some of the effects, even some of these effects that I list, you can hit me up in the description below for a private lesson and I can help you out one-on-one, really get you to a place where you can actually perform these with very high success rates and actually use them as real working material. And with all that said, guys, don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more like this. Give me some ideas if you have any of more top 5 videos you'd like to see. And if you'd like more content from me, of course, subscribe to the channel, and let's jump right into the video. So I want to start with 2 honorable mentions. The first one is an effect I just recently taught on the channel called Mind Games. It was my 4K subscriber sort of special tutorial. This is an effect of mine that I created. It's a completely PROPLESS playing card divination that can also kind of be used as a force in certain ways. It is absolutely awesome. Very, very high success rate, and I would highly recommend you check that out. I absolutely love that. Now, my second honorable mention honestly might have been in the top 2 or 3 on this list if it wasn't for the fact that some of you might not consider it PROPLESS because it does involve a little bit of a usage of a cell phone, which personally, like I've talked about lots on this channel, I consider PROPLESS because these days we all have our phone on us. It's essentially an extension of our own body. You know, we all have unlimited knowledge at our fingertips, so really it's part of us. So I consider phone stuff generally to be PROPLESS as long as you can kind of make it feel like it's not super important. And that is my effect called Character. Now I'll link a performance in the cards if you'd like to check it out. I think it's at the end, the last performance in this Street Magic video. One of the strongest effects I do, super powerful. So essentially the spectators build up a fictional character. They think of a name for this character, either a physical or a personality trait for them. They create a random number that has something to do with them. We don't really know what it is. And then I proceed to read the name, do some mind reading, guess the name, I guess the trait, and then we take a look at this number and I ask them, like, what could this number be? And they'll say a phone number. It's about the right length for a phone number. So then you take their phone and they type in this phone number into their keypad, and that phone number happens to belong to someone in their contacts who has the same name as the name the person's thinking of. So it kind of takes it full circle. You create this fictional character, but then at the end you realize they might not have been so fictional at all. They may be in fact a real person, and it all just kind of closes up really nice. But I didn't include it on this list because it's not truly to a purist PROPLESS. So all these effects are 100% PROPLESS. So let's get into number 5, which is Isolation by Michael Murray. Let's take a look at a performance. All right, buddy, I'm gonna try a little bit of a mental experiment with you. Hopefully it's pretty cool. So in a second, I'm gonna have you think of a card like a king, for example, and you're gonna keep that card in your head. And you're going to focus on it. Now, don't think of like any of the aces or any of the 7s because like everyone picks those, and I don't want you thinking I just got lucky guessing a random card. So pick one that's truly unique and individual to you. You got one?
Yeah.
Now commit that to memory, don't forget it, and what I want to do is give you an example of some of the stuff we're going to be doing so that you can kind of understand before we get into it. Now, just make sure you follow all of my instructions carefully. That's the main important thing for you to do here. So first, an example of something I might do is have you think of like the suit, let's say. So if you focus on the suit, just like imagine spelling it out in your mind. Can you count like the exact number of letters in the suit for me? So here's what we'll do. Focus on the first letter, and think of its exact position in the alphabet. Like,
okay, yep.
Yeah, and now here's what I'll do. I'll have you jump from that first letter to the last letter, but I think all the last letters of the suits are all S, so let's jump to the second last letter.
Okay.
And you're on a different letter now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. So, here's what I want to do now. That's in this example. What you do, I'd have you like think of these things and like focus on them and send them to me. So that's like an example of what we're gonna do here. But how does that feel? Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, pretty straightforward. Yeah.
All right. So now let's get started. Here's what we're gonna try. First, I want you to focus on the value. Okay, so like king, for example, you'd focus on that word king, or you'd focus on that word ace, or whatever it happens to be. So just focus on that. And send it to me. Imagine trying to send me, just say it over and over in your mind. Okay, I see the beginning. The beginning's coming through clear and the ending of the word, but I'm stuck a little bit on the middle. So can you focus on the exact middle letter for me?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so focus on that one letter. And now I'm gonna go for trying to guess a letter. And when I do this, I like to go with vowels, because of course they all have a vowel, and so I want to give myself a bit of a shot here. So first thing I see is an E. There's an E in it?
Yep.
Yeah, and that E is that middle letter, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
yep.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So what I want you to do now, you're obviously, I think, a little bit more of a visual person, so I want you to imagine that card like floating in the air. Can you imagine just like floating there, floating up, and here's what I want you to do. I want you to imagine now I have an invisible deck of cards and I'm looking through, and I pull out the 10 of clubs.
Yeah,
And that's your card,
right.
isn't it? Yeah. Woo! Pretty cool, eh?
Holy shit, that's crazy. That's exactly my card.
Brilliant.
But,
So the quick synopsis of this effect. Essentially, it's a thought of playing card. The spectator thinks of a playing card. You give them a bit of a reading, you use some techniques throughout that reading, but it doesn't really feel like you're asking a lot of questions or really doing a lot of prying. It just feels like part of a process, and Michael has a great technique where you can get a lot of information before the effect even starts in the spectator's mind. As sort of like an example. So it's absolutely a great effect. On this list, it's the one I use the least. There's two reasons. Part of it is it's one of the new, I think it's the newest one that I've learned on this list. And also, personally, I just find if I can do a sort of propless effect, I don't want to always bring it back to playing cards, right? I want to do a propless name, a propless star sign, propless drawing duplication, those sort of things. So that's one of the reasons it kind of finds itself at 5, and I don't use it as much as the others. It's not something that I use in my working repertoire, but I use it a lot sort of socially and for fun. And it's a great routine though, and I think the biggest power it has is the ideas throughout that routine that I've been able to adapt and use with other routines. Now the reactions to this are very good. I'd say about a 6 or 7 out of 10. You can get really good reactions, but again, I think where the reactions slightly suffer is the fact that, again, it's just playing cards and doesn't connect with people as much as some of the other things can. The hit rate, I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10, and you can kind of look at that as about 60% as a hit rate, right? I will give a caveat that I probably could increase my hit rate with more practice. Again, it's something a little bit newer for me. I haven't had as much time to practice it as I have with some of these other things, and in the times that I have tried it, I'd say it's worked about 60% of the time. So it hasn't hit a whole, like as much. I'll explain why that is when I get into the cons of this routine. The skill, I gave this an 8 out of 10. It is intermediate, but it is hard. I would say it's pretty hard just because the linguistics can get a little complex in the sense that there's a fair amount of steps and things to remember, but more importantly, I have found that even following some of the scripting pretty much exactly how Michael has it laid out, and maybe it's problems with my delivery, but again, these are things you need to work on and iron out. It's not always just the words, it's the way you deliver it to make it clear to the spectator, but I found people either make me, they have to have me repeat the instructions, or get slightly confusing sometimes, with certain people, and they can not quite fully understand exactly what you meant for them to say. And part of it is because some of the method involves kind of confusing the spectator to get information out of them, and I think it's a genius idea, but it can also kind of confuse them too much sometimes. So that's one of the main cons, is it can be a little bit complex and confusing for spectators to follow, and that what can lead to things going wrong and you not hitting. What I do love about this effect is its many applications to card magic. You can combine this with practically any card magic routine and sort of do a thought of card. You quickly divine the card, and you don't necessarily need to reveal it right then. You can keep that information and do it with your card effect. So that is a great bonus of this effect. Isolation is available on Michael Murray's website called MindFX, and you can check it out there. It's a little book, and it's great. Now, number 4 is Guess Who by Peter Turner. Let's take a look at the performance. So
I'm gonna have you think of a name in a second, but exactly. Because if you ask people to think of a name, they tend to pick people they know or that sort of thing. And I don't want you to think that I like creeped your Facebook or Instagram or whatever. And I'm like, I know every name that you know, right? No. So we're gonna do it in a much more random way. So I'm gonna have you think of 2 single-digit numbers that are different. So for example, you could pick 8 and 9, and you could make like 89, right? Don't pick those 2 numbers because I said them obviously, but think of any 2 different single-digit numbers.
Okay.
Put those together and make your 2-digit number.
Okay.
Clear?
Yeah.
Pretty easy. Why don't you just spell out that number like in between us in the air, letter by letter, you know? Focus in on the first letter of that number. You got that? You got the first letter? I want you to think of the first male name that comes to mind when you think of that. Now don't pick Taylor or Sam, that's unisex. Pick something definitively male, maybe like Sean or something like that. Now think of the numbers of letters in that name. It's like 3 or 4? 3 or 4? One of those. No, it's one of those. 3 or 4, right? No? Okay, I want you to say the name over and over in your head. Okay, keep saying it. Over and over like Steve, Steve, Steve. Keep saying it just like that, okay? Don't know if this works. It's gonna be a big letdown if it didn't work, but we're gonna try here. Lauren, what's the name?
Frank. Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! No way. Shut up! I don't even know a Frank. Oh my gosh! Whoa, whoa, whoa!
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
The premise of this effect is simply a propless name divination. You go up to a spectator, you have them think of a name, and you reveal it. Simple, but very, very powerful, very, very strong, and direct. Now this does get amazing reactions basically every time. I've given it a 9 out of 10 in terms of reactions. And again, I've tried to do this analytically. How often when I perform this do I get amazing reactions? Basically every time. I think there's something about the name that kind of connects to people a little bit, that is more personal than like a playing card, that is really, really strong, really powerful, especially if you can kind of build a connection with them in this name. In terms of it being surefire and its hit rate, I gave it a 7 out of 10. It actually has a quite good hit rate, but I find sometimes people they not necessarily ignore the instructions that kind of get them into a limiting box, but they will have a name beforehand in their mind and they kind of just stick with that even if the instructions don't allow them to, right? Once in a while that happens. It's rare, but it does, and I feel like that's just on the spectator. There's not much you can do about it, and that can affect the hit rate slightly, but I still, 70, 75, maybe even 80%, I have a pretty good hit rate with this effect. In terms of skill, this is like a medium, whatever that medium means, but I give it about a 6.5 out of 10. There's not a lot of memory work, which is fantastic. There's only a few little things you need to keep in mind. The scripting is fairly straightforward. It's just a little bit tricky to learn how to read certain people and certain parts of the readings, and learning how to interpret how they react to certain sentences, to understand, is that a yes, is that a no, without having them verbalize it sometimes, sort of those type of things. Just something you need to practice, and that can be a little bit tricky. What I love about this effect is how authentic and relatable it is, being a name, and it's something that people will actually ask you. Like sometimes I go into this impromptu, someone says like, oh, you're a mind reader, guess what name I'm thinking of? And there's a perfect segue into that. Even if they have a name in mind, there's a perfect justification to get them off of that name and onto a name that you can actually guess. This is also extremely fair feeling, and there is a extremely high number of perceived outs. So the amount of outs that there actually is pretty low, and that's what allows you to hone in on what name they're thinking of. But I think there's about 5 or 6 actual outs. But the perceived outs from the spectator's perspective is it really feels unlimited. Like it's incredible how well that sort of dual reality exists. The one con with this is kind of like I touched on, sometimes people can either miss an instruction or kind of already have a name in mind and they'll sort of stick with that name, or they'll pick a name that doesn't meet one of the criteria, and then it's very hard to get. The great thing about this though is it's very easy to save with like a one ahead or an out system. Like I have a surefire out if this doesn't go right. So if you do have this effect and you are interested in learning about this surefire out, you can send me a message and I can point you in the right direction, or perhaps give you my ideas on how to do that. Now this effect is available in a couple of places I think, but where I got it from, or where I know it from, is an illusionist download called Principle by Peter Turner. He teaches 3 propless mentalism effects. There's one called Abstract, which is pretty good. I've used it before, it's nice. Overlooking the Obvious, I haven't used it a ton, but it's still a very nice idea. And then Guess Who, which is fantastic. So definitely a good download to check out. Now number 3 is Peter Turner's Monkeying Around Anagram. Let's take a look at the performance.
You know your star sign, don't say it.
Okay.
You know it.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Can you just focus on your star sign for me? Okay? Can you just think of the exact number of letters in it? It's not a big deal. Okay, forget it. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
Why don't you just imagine it spelt out in the air in between us?
Okay,
And now cycle. Start cycling through the letters. Okay?
You already know. I would.
There's an R
Yeah.
and an A.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hold on. Focus a little harder. An I.
Mhm.
And an S.
Yeah.
E. No E. No E. Hold on. Keep repeating it in your head for me, okay? Keep saying it over and over like Sagittarius, Sagittarius, Sagittarius.
Oh my god! That was so good. I was like, do I have like a necklace on me? That was so good.
Crazy, right?
Oh my god! I need to learn that trick. Yeah, it's on pattern. Oh my god.
So this is my go-to star sign divination. It's the one you see me do all the time. Absolutely fantastic. Probably the PROPLESS Mentalism effect that I do the most just because of how quick, easy, and relatable it is. There are several different anagram and star sign divination systems, but I always come back to this one because of how successful it is and how great the reactions are. So the reactions on this, I give an 8 out of 10. For a large majority of people, especially women and people who are more into the star sign thing, the reactions are always great. If they have that personal connection, right, with the star sign meaning something, it's really, really good. But even people who don't really care about star signs, still the fact that you could guess something in their mind, and if you can do this to a few different people, absolutely killer. So I give it an 8 out of 10. It almost always gets very good reactions. In terms of the hit rate being a surefire, it's like a 9.5 out of 10. I've only missed this like once or twice in probably like 50 times plus that I've done this. And those were often my fault. I just made a mistake. I should have been able to get them, right? So it's extremely, extremely high hit rate, even if you're not that good at it, because it's almost so mechanical in how it works. Skill, this is fairly easy, a very beginner-friendly anagram if you're starting to get into anagrams. Not much memory work. The anagram is also a word, so it's easy to remember, and there's only 12 outs, so it's very easy to categorize it. And again, if you forget the anagram, you can just work through it yourself, right, logically. There's an R and there's no A. So what star signs have an R but no A, right? You can easily figure that out. So I gave it a 4 out of 10 in terms of skill level. So the things I love about this effect is it's personal, and a lot of people will take it really seriously, which really helps to get better reactions and gain some sort of attachment between them and what you're actually revealing. The one con with this is it's difficult to repeat in front of the same person more than once, and people often ask to see it again, right, if you're in a group. So imagine you're in a group, you reveal one person's star sign. Of course, everyone else is going to ask you to reveal their star sign too, and it can put you in a tricky situation, especially if you've made it a lot of the way through the anagram, and then you're going to do it right away again on the same person, and now you're picking up on the exact same letters, right? It starts to kind of give it away. Now, I'll tell you a quick story. I was at a party and I did this effect about, no lie, probably 20 times because people got word that I could do this and people kept coming up to me. So things that you can do to get around that, and what I did in this situation is, again, you have to keep in mind some people were kind of drinking a bit, and you know, some people weren't, but some people were, so I could kind of register who was going to remember what I did before, who wasn't, and I could kind of play around with that. But I also, you know, if I only made it through one letter on the anagram, then I'm okay to do it again in front of that person because they haven't seen the rest of the anagram. But once I go through a good portion of it, then it's hard to repeat. So I just keep in mind who I did what for, you know, and I do things in small groups, groups of 2, groups of 3, and then that way I can, you know, repeat the effect. And I honestly did it like 20 times in a row, hit it like every single time, and no one was any of the wiser. Once in a while I'd switch up letters or kind of skip a letter if based on my intuition. And once in a while I mixed in a slightly different star sign divination technique from someone else, but I pretty much used this one the whole way through. So you can get around it, but that's just the one thing that you have to keep in mind that can be a problem. But at the end of the day, I usually, if someone asks and I don't want to do it again, or I don't think it'd be a good idea, I just say, let me show you something even better, and we'll move into something else. So this is available in Peter Turner's Volume 9 Star Sign Divination booklet from his like Mentalism Masterclass series. It should be available on Penguin Magic, and I will link that below as with the rest of these. So number 2 is Mind Peak by Phedon Bilek. Let's take a look at the performance.
Now I want you to imagine you're a young kid, maybe 10 or 12 years old, sitting in class, right? Grade school. And you're really bored. The teacher is, maybe you're in history class. It's very boring talk that she's giving, and you're barely paying attention. All your senses start to become heightened because you're kind of zoning out. So, you hear the rain tapping on the window. You hear the annoying kid next to you clicking his pen, and maybe you smell the smelly kid in front of you. And all your senses are kind of coming together in this moment, right? Now, you reach down in front of you, you see a pencil. You pick up the pencil, and on your desk, you make a simple doodle. Nothing too complicated, something that would take maybe 5 or 10 seconds. Now, you could go for like a smiley face, a mountain, or like a bicycle. Now, obviously, don't go for any of those, as I said them. And please, no geometric shapes. But just a simple doodle that anyone could easily recognize. Do you have something in mind?
Yes, I do.
Perfect. Now, I want you to open your eyes. What I want you to do is imagine this doodle as its actual sized object. So if you went with the smiley face, you would picture like an actual face, its actual size. So whatever the object is that you have in mind, picture it like what it looks like in real life, how big it is, and that sort of thing. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
The last thing I want you to do is think of the word associated with it. So pretty simple. If you pick smiley face, you might think face. If you picked mountain, you might just think mountain as the word. Just, the word, if that's whatever that thing is. Now, you could be thinking of anything, of course. This object, this is not a living thing.
No, it's not.
And this is something that you can't touch, is it? Like in real life, we can't touch this thing. Or could you? What do you think?
You can touch it.
You can touch it. Okay. So I want you to pick up your pen and your paper that you have next to you. And I want you to just draw this simple doodle down. I'm going to do the same, what I'm getting from you, based on, what I know about you and what signs you've given me. Now, if these drawings match, that would obviously be absolutely incredible. You can agree?
Yeah.
So what I want you to do is hold it up, but don't show anyone. Just hold it up like this.
Okay. I have a big notebook. I will show you.
It's okay.
Okay.
And on 3, we're going to turn it around, okay? See how this goes, this experiment. 1, 2, 3.
Well, yours looks so much better.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
So Phedon is one of my favorite mentalists. He is very, very big into PROPLESS Mentalism, and I love him for that. And he's got some fantastic material, and this one is absolutely no exception. This one's so high because I just love how surefire it is, yet feeling super broad, like they could have really chose anything, and then it kind of has a nice personal touch to it as well. The premise of this is simply a drawing duplication. You have them think of a drawing, and you could have them draw it, and then you can draw it, or you could just completely do it propless and just reveal it. It is absolutely great. Reaction, I give this like a 9.5 out of 10. This thing always kills every single time. People absolutely lose their mind. And I think part of that is because of just how relatable and how how many free choices it feels like they have. The hit rate is quite high with this. I would give it like a 7.5, 8 out of 10. You are still painting them in a box, but unlike the name divination where you paint them into a box of a couple of names, this one you paint them into a very large box with like 17, 20 outs. And you can guess, if they think of any of those, you can guess it. It still feels like they have millions of choices, right? So your percentage of getting them to land in that box is much higher, and often does hit very, very well. So for hit rate, I'd give this an 8 out of 10. So the skill, this is definitely intermediate, and mostly just because there is quite a bit of memory work. With the 17-ish outs, you got to remember them all. You got to remember what categories they fall in, how all the different questions and things you need to say to deduce which is which, and you need to remember all the different little techniques and things. And you can follow it yourself. Like often that's what I'll do. I'll work through it in my own mind. I'm like, okay, now I get to this point. How can I distinguish between these two things? Oh yes, it's that question, right? So you can definitely follow it, and it's not too bad, but this is probably the most memory intensive one. This and isolation, I think, are on a similar level, but it's definitely within reach for everyone. I think out of all the effects, this really has the most free choice feeling, just because they could literally pick any object, it feels like, right? And there's no point where it feels restrictive. You do restrict them, but it does not feel like it whatsoever. And I think as a drawing duplication, one of the reasons it gets such good reactions is because it's just better than words, right? A drawing or an object, you know, figuring out what an image someone's thinking of is better than just a word, in my opinion, and that's why it's so great. The only con with this is just the memory work involved. It's going to take you some work. You know, you're going to have to put in the work, and you know, I find writing this out by hand or typing it out can really help you write it all out in your own words, and I found that's a great strategy to get you to help memorize it. So Mind Peak is available. It's one of 2 routines in Phedon's book called PROPLESS, which I believe you can get from Vanishing Ink and I think several other of your main magic dealers. So again, I'll link that below. It is a wonderful effect. And now number 1, hopefully doesn't come as a surprise to too many of you, another Peter Turner effect, the 3rd one on this list. What can I say? I'm a big Pete fan, but this is Midas Touch by Peter Turner. Let's take a look at this killer performance.
Here's what we're going to try. Imagine a ball of light in my hand. Focus your eyes on it. Okay? And imagine that it's following my hand. Now don't move your head, just move your eyes and follow it. It comes up, 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 up. And it stays right there in place, floating. And if your eyes start to get heavy, get tired, just let them close. Alright? And on 3, 1, 2, 3, close your eyes. Alright. Now, you can tell by the sound of my voice I'm nowhere near you, correct? Mm-hmm. And I'm not touching you now. Mm-hmm. But you did just feel me touch you, yeah?
Yeah.
Now, just keep your eyes closed, you're doing great. Now, when you felt me touch you, and if you're stuck between a few numbers, you can say, you know, a couple of numbers, but how many times did you feel me touch you?
Twice.
All right, open your eyes for a second. Just take a deep breath in and out. All right, do you mind if I ask you a few more questions about your feelings? All right, just close your eyes for me. That last touch you felt, was it firmer than the rest of them or softer?
It was fun.
And that last firm touch, can you point to where you felt it? Oh my God. Now open your eyes.
What the fuck? That is fucked up.
That's amazing what you can make people feel in their mind. That's not actually there. Thank you guys.
Didn't touch you. He touched Max, and then you felt it. And he asked you when did you touch
Obviously you felt
it.
it before, and then you never touched it, and then.
Oh shit! You never.
No way, man.
Wow.
Touch me.
Amazing. That's awesome.
So the Midas touch is a PK touches effect where you touch one participant and another one with their eyes closed. They feel the touch, and then they can tell you how many times they felt another touch, and then they can tell you where they felt a 3rd touch. So there's 3 phases to this routine, each one better than the rest. This, without a doubt, reactions 10 out of 10 every single time. Never have a bad reaction. This is really a reputation maker. This will get you gigs, this will get you bookings. This is just an absolutely crazy effect. And the best part, guys, it is 9.9 out of 10 on the surefire scale. And I'm not kidding, this almost can't not work, right? There's one question at the beginning that if they answer with a no instead of a yes, could present slightly an issue in the first phase. But you can just go, reset, and move into the second phase with no issue. And if you know the effect, you can probably figure out what question I'm talking about. But guys, honestly, it's never been a problem. You're gonna read it and you're gonna say, how the heck is this a 9.9 on the surefire scale? You're gonna think, you know, I could see issues where this goes wrong, but it just doesn't. It's just too tightly constructed by Pete. It's too well tied up. It's just so perfect, it won't fail, I can tell you guys. Skill level, another great thing, this is relatively easy. I give it a 6 out of 10. One of the easier effects on this list, and that's because the scripting is just you just say what Pete tells you and it'll work, right? Like, I have obviously adapted and changed a few little things to sort of suit how I speak and my things, but it's very close to how Pete does it, and he's just put so much time into this. It's basically perfect. Now, the biggest thing I love about this is it is super unique. No one has ever seen anything like this when it comes to magic, and that's one of the reasons it gets such good reactions, because it really stands out. Absolutely one of my favorite effects of all time, and I highly recommend that you check this out. The one con with this, it is very hard to practice. You need a group of people, or at least 2, but ideally, you know, like 4, really, because that's one of the great things about this effect. You can get like so many people involved, but you need a group, and you need a group that hasn't seen it before. So you do it once for your 3 family members, and then you can't really use them again, because it'll kind of destroy, like, I guess you could, but you know, with mentalism, you generally don't want to repeat it on the same person. They won't get the same genuine responses and things that you're looking for. It's just a tough effect to practice. But honestly, I think the first time I did it, I practiced it once on family members, and then I just went over it like 30 times in my head, and then I just went out there and did it, and it worked flawlessly. So I wouldn't be too worried. You just got to take a risk with this one. So this is available in the How to Control Minds kit from Illusionist. I think that's the only place that it's officially available right now, but honestly, it's worth the price of the whole kit. And there's so much great stuff in that kit as well. That is a very good kit, so I would highly recommend it. So guys, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. What is your favorite effect on this list? Whether you perform it or not, whether just seeing the performance of me do it, what is your favorite effect? Which one are you gonna pick up? Which one are you gonna learn? If you have any other propless effects that you like, let me know down below. And if you'd like to see more of these sort of top 5 videos, whether it's like mentalism effects, card magic effects, street magic, impromptu, gimmicked effects, whatever, let me know what you guys would like to see in the comments below. If you like this format, I can try to keep it up. Hopefully there was a lot of value and information in this video. Hopefully some of the ratings give you an idea on which ones you can do, which ones you want to do, which ones you like, and then the performances hopefully helped a lot too. So if you'd like any more help with any of these effects, right, if you want help practicing, as someone who's done all these effects live many times, I have a ton of little nuances and things and tricks and helping with practicing and all these things. You can hit me up for a private lesson, and I will get you on your way to performing any, if not all, of these effects well, so you can actually use these all the time. Of course, if you like this video and would like to see more, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And with all that said, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video.